good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the 8 o'clock spot live here on the Gryd Network. I am your host, Bryson Carver, host/moderator, that is, and we've got an absolutely loaded show. Took last week off. I was traveling on vacation. A bunch of people weren't available, which is a shame for Alfred because he was promising me like this big thing considering his Jets beat the Eagles. Maybe you can have it in store for a little later, buddy, since your Jets come off a bye, so they technically didn't lose this week. But we got a lot to talk about today. ALCS Game 7, Rangers from the get-go just thumped the Houston Astros last night, 11-4. Garcia for Texas was fantastic. We'll get into that. Also getting into Lamar Jackson's performance. I know my guy Devin's very excited about that. Putting together a spectacular game against the Detroit Lions. Is he a top 5 quarterback? We'll detail that later. And our top 2-point getters in the final round will tell you who's better between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics, the 2 betting favorites in Vegas to win the 2024 NBA title. But our first panelist is Devin Nettles of the At the Bank podcast. And Devin, you and I, man, we're happy Steelers and Ravens fans. How are you feeling today on this Tuesday? You got you, Devin? Oh, okay. Devin, for some reason, Devin can't hear us. We'll see if we can get the audio hooked up at some point. But Mike is second. Mike, we were just coming off an argument about Cavs and Warriors. For some reason, Mike Guido thinks the Cavs are going to be a better basketball team than the Golden State Warriors, which hasn't been the case in 7 to 8 years. But Mike, nonetheless, how you doing?
You know, I really appreciated your honesty on the NBA preview show that you did earlier today, Bryson, but I don't appreciate the shots right now. So I take everything that I said before, I take completely back right now.
Wow, I appreciate you just walking that back. Devin, is Devin back? And Devin, can you hear us, buddy?
Yeah, I can hear y'all now, man. I couldn't hear nothing at first.
So hey, sometimes it just comes in and out there. But how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You know, my boys coming off that big victory off that MVP candidate, But, we on to the next one. But I'm doing good, though. Big trust.
Oh, it's back. You said you weren't going to do that until...
No. I said I wasn't going to big trust you. I didn't say I wasn't going to say it anymore.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyways, we're a half game behind you for the AFC North, so watch your backs. Alfred Parsard Jr., happy Jets fan, even coming off of the bye, and big baseball fan. We're finally getting some baseball today. Alfred, how are you doing today?
I'm good. The last time the Jets played, they won. We made the Eagles fans cry, so I'm in a good mood.
There's nothing better than seeing this happy tear, for us, tears coming from Philadelphia fans. But again, we've got a loaded show. If I can get the leaderboard, get ready to go here, because Alfred Parsard Jr. is absolutely on Barry Grant Jr.'s tail right now. We're getting the leaderboard loaded right now. Here we go. So is this it? No, I think that. Hold on. We get the updated leaderboard. I think that's it. Hang on. Okay, there we go. So updated leaderboard, Alfred Parsard Jr. is only 7,000 points behind Barry Grant Jr., followed by Devin, Mike. So three of the top 4 point getters are on the show. So this should be a fun one, followed by Dalton, Adam, John, Alex, and Eric. But again, we got a loaded show. Let's start with last night's Monday night game. But before we get into that, let's go over our first round rules. So a great take nets you 200 points, a good take 100 points, an okay take gives you 50, and a bad take you come home empty-handed, 0 points. So the San Francisco 49ers, a team I argue might have the potential to have the most loaded roster in the history of the NFL. Well, they've lost back-to-back games, and this latest one against the, at the time, 2-4 Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Brock Purdy struggled badly through 2 fourth-quarter interceptions, struggled throughout the night, as did the 49ers, turning the ball over 3 times in total. I'll start with you, Devin. Do you think Brock Purdy, 2 rough performances back-to-back weeks, do you think he was exposed as being sort of a system quarterback?
I'm not going to say he's been exposed. I just think that when you don't have your top guy there to help you out through that offense, I just think that it's going to be very, very difficult for you to actually be the quarterback that everybody's looking for. Christian McCaffrey was also dealing with a kind of somewhat injury. He's not going to really accept that he was hurt, but, he was dealing with an injury. I'm not going to say he's fully exposed. I'm just say that the Vikings really caught him on a bad day. The Vikings defense behind Brian Flores, it's not a bad defense. It's just that the Kirk Cousins really just couldn't put up points for the defense to actually get off the field. The defense always is on the field. So I feel like that now that Brock Purdy gave the Vikings so many chances to Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins was able to capitalize for the first time on the big stage. I just think that the Vikings really just caught Brock Purdy and the 49ers on a bad night.
You could argue that. You could argue that. Listen, Brock Purdy has been, just 2 weeks ago, it's crazy. He was in the MVP discussion. Now, everybody's like almost like dancing on his proverbial grave, despite the fact that it's only week 7. But I'll move to Mike Guido now, because I'm curious your thoughts on Brock Purdy after 2, rough starts. Do you think he has been exposed as kind of a system guy, given the talent around him and the coaching in San Francisco?
I think that's kind of a tough question to answer, because I don't know that he's been exposed as a system quarterback. I think most people kind of understood that Brock Purdy's good and Kyle Shanahan makes him better. Like, I don't know that anybody's ever really said that Brock Purdy, if he were to go play in New England in a mess of an offense, that he would be, a superstar, whereas Mac Jones is not. Like, I don't know that anybody's argued that. So I do think that Brock Purdy is in some semblance of a way a system quarterback already, but I do think that people are kind of overreacting to 2 bad games, right? I mean, you got to keep in mind, last week when they played Cleveland's defense is historically good this year, right? Apparently the only guy that can put up points against the Cleveland Browns defense is Gardner Minshew, and that's pretty much it, right? But other than that, Cleveland has been unbelievable defensively, so I give him a pass on that, right? And against Minnesota, this is easily the worst loss of his career, but let's not overreact here. We have to kind of keep in mind that I think that this 49ers offense doesn't really run the same as far as pre-snap motion and getting guys to create space without Deebo Samuel in the lineup. I think people are underestimating the absence of Deebo Samuel in this offense. He really is, even if he's not their number 1 wide receiver on any given night, he's the guy that you have to game plan for, because they line him up in so many different ways. So I think that there's a little bit of pre-snap deception that they're losing out on. And to be honest, what Brock Purdy's done, I mean, he's still completing 68% of his throws. He's got 11 touchdowns as opposed to 3 picks. Like, he's still having a really solid season. You just have to kind of keep in mind that what Brock Purdy is right now for Kyle Shanahan is he's a guy who can run his system at a very, very high level. That's all he is. If he throws out a stinker every once in a while, I think you have to come to expect that.
That's fair. That's fair, because the fact of the matter is his tangibles don't exactly blow you away. I've always said that as a Brock Purdy guy, his arm strength is, leaves some to be desired. Accuracy is good and mobility is good. But from a physical, from a physical perspective, he doesn't exactly remind you of a Justin Herbert, so to speak. So, I mean, you obviously got to take that into account as well. Finally, with you, Alfred, do you think Brock Purdy was exposed to a certain degree last night against the Minnesota Vikings?
Exposed, no, and I'll tell you why. First off, even though Christian McCaffrey did play and he did score 2 touchdowns, he was nowhere near 100%. He was a game-time decision. If you look at his stats, he only had 50, I believe 51 yards receiving and 45 rushing. Not really the yardage we've come to expect out of Christian McCaffrey, but again, the man wasn't healthy. People also forget that one of his biggest weapons, Deebo Samuel, did not play in that game. Deebo Samuel, of course, is a great wide receiver, and he's also been used in running plays this season as well. So when you're missing one of your key weapons, of course you're going to be a bit handicapped. And I'm not even going to blame Brock Purdy for the loss. I'm going to blame, even though he threw that crucial interception in late in the 4th quarter, I'm going to blame the 49ers defense for that loss. Reason being, Jordan Addison, they couldn't stop him. He had over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Hawkinson had over 80 yards receiving. And I believe Brandon Powell had 64 yards receiving. So, I mean, and Kirk Cousins, almost 378 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. I mean, the Vikings offense just beat the Niners defense. I don't really think Brock Purdy's getting exposed, especially when his number 1 receiving option didn't play. So I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say that he was exposed. Even when they lost to Cleveland, had they made that field goal, the game could have went in a different direction if they don't miss that field goal and don't go to overtime. So I'm not gonna say Brock Purdy's exposed. When his offensive weapons, McCaffrey and Samuel, are healthy again, I think we forget this conversation.
That's fair. And again, when you consider how, as we keep mentioning over and over, how it's like an all-star team in San Francisco, and they can do that to a large degree because Brock Purdy is making less per game than, or less per season than Lamar Jackson is making per game. So like you have to take that in consideration. Obviously more on Lamar later. But before we get to point totals, let's look at the comments real quick. Sincere Brown's in the comments, frequent viewer of the show. He says, I liked the Vikings last night. I saw a few. I was talking to somebody last night who took the Vikings the points, and obviously they won outright. Sincere Brown also says, I think Purdy will be fine. I think there's a lot of truth to that. There's, again, I kind of agree with all of you in terms of kind of caught him on a bad day. He didn't play terribly well, and just, some of the throws he just flat out missed. He missed Kittle on one play in the first half badly. So let's get to our point totals here. I'm going to give Devin, I'm going to give you 100 points here. Only reason I tacked off some points is because I'm not going to lie, I thought you were a little too hard on Kirk Cousins. I think given the fact that, what he did, especially considering that Niners defense, you could argue Alfred sort of alluded to, he got a little bit lucky in that throw to Jordan Addison at the end of the first half. But outside of that, that's honestly one of the better games I've seen Kirk play. Certainly was the better quarterback on the field. And
he did that last year too. And then what happened?
Again, he didn't play defense as good as this last year in his defense. I'm not even a Kirk Cousins fan. I'm just saying he played well last night. Guido, I'm going to give you the 200 points. I'm going to give you the full credit here. You bring up the point about Deebo Samuel and how important he is to this offense. And obviously last week when you consider missing Deebo and McCaffrey for virtually the entire second half, and not to mention Trent Williams, left tackle, out of that game as well against the likes of Danielle Hunter, who's up there in sacks in the NFL. So that contributed as well. But great take by you and a great take by Alfred. Excuse me, tying Guido with 200 points. Thought you brought up an interesting point that we expect more from the Niners defense than we do Purdy, and the Niners defense simply couldn't come through when it was all said and done. So, by the way, just some weird coaching by Kevin O'Connell in that game. Very oddly conservative, almost coaching not to lose, but they got the job done. To the second round rules. Second round, everything's double. Great take nets you 400 points. A good take gives you 200. An okay take gives you 100 points. And a bad take, you come home empty-handed once again. Let's move on to the American League Championship Series, where it was a repeat of the 2019 World Series, in which the road team won every single game throughout. The Texas Rangers obliterate the Houston Astros by a final score of 11-4. Garcia for the Rangers, who was involved in that sort of altercation, if you want to call it that, in Game 5 with the entire Astros team, got the last laugh, got the last bit of revenge, and won the American League Championship Series Most Valuable Player. So we'll start with you, Mike, here. Were you more impressed with the Rangers winning this series, or the Astros, the defending champions, now no more in a couple of weeks, losing the series?
Oh, I think by far I'm way more impressed with the Texas Rangers than I am disappointed in the Astros. Truthfully, the AL West towards the end of the season was an absolute bloodbath, and Alfred can attest to that too. There was a point where in late August and in September, the Texas Rangers bullpen was among the worst in baseball. They were blowing games left and right, and we weren't even sure if they were going to make the playoffs. I mean, it was getting really scary towards the end for the Texas Rangers. But I kind of want to go in a different direction, because what impresses me the most about Texas is that a couple of off seasons ago, when they signed Corey Seager to that massive contract, when they signed Marcus Semien to that massive contract, and then last year when they signed Jacob deGrom, and they just kept throwing money at guys. And I was always the guy on the other end that's saying, what are the Rangers doing spending all this money? None of their prospects are ready to come up. And by the time they are, these guys are all going to be old and injured and past their prime. I just thought that they were spending money to sell tickets. It just didn't make any sense to me. So what impresses me most about the Rangers right now is that they proved me wrong. Like, this is a team that hits the absolute piss out of the baseball. They just do. Adolis Garcia, the fact that they were able to find him off waivers from the St. Louis Cardinals is phenomenal, right? I mean, listen, he drove in 5 last night. He had 5 home runs in his last 4 games. He was absolutely phenomenal. What they've done with their homegrown talent, guys like Jonah Heim, Evan Carter. I mean, they've been able to find guys in their own systems, right? Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Young. I mean, these are guys that are going to be legitimate contributors for a long time in that organization, and then piling on top of that what they've done with Mitch Garver, adding the pitching with Scherzer and Jordan Montgomery and Nathan Eovaldi and those guys. I mean, they just have done a great job at building a team. And truth be told, this was a team that I underestimated a ton, and they proved me wrong in every way. So I'm way, way, way more impressed by Texas than I am disappointed in the Astros.
I'll tell you one thing I'm very impressed with what Texas did is the fact that you lose all 3 games at home. That's one thing to do that and go down 3-2 with the series shifting back to Houston, but it was the way they lost Game 5 with the altercation followed by the Altuve homer, which felt like almost like a nail, just felt like a nail in the coffin of Texas's season. They come back and win Game 6 and destroy them in Game 7. So hats off to them. I'll move to you, Alfred. Were you more impressed by the Rangers getting it done in 7 games, or disappointed with the Astros for losing a 3-2 lead in the series with 2 home games at the end?
More impressed with the Rangers winning than disappointed with the Astros losing, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to rewind time and go back to January of this year. Jacob deGrom's introductory press conference when they signed him as a free agent, and me being a heartbroken Mets fan that he left, he said, and I quote, "I chose to sign with the Rangers because I came here to win championships." Now, mind you, last season, this same team, minus the pitching staff, the offenses, remain the same for the most part. This was a 68-win team a year ago. No playoffs. And now they win 28 more games this season, and 38 more games, this season than they did last season. On top of you hear that from DeGrom, I'm like, this guy's delirious. I thought it was a money move. However, when you see the productivity of this offense in the regular season, they had the most home runs in all of MLB. Adolis Garcia, again, like Mike said, it's crazy to think that he was not thought of as a player that the Cardinals wanted to keep. He and Randy Arozarena coming up in the same year. Now they both are prospective stars of their own teams. And again, look at the lineup from 1 to 9. Jonah Heim, arguably the best switch hitting catcher we've seen in a long time. I think he's the second best catcher in the American League after Adley Rutschman. You have former World Series MVP in 2020, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, the aforementioned Garcia. These guys can knock the ball all over the ballpark. And then look at the pitching performances. Max Scherzer aside, in that one horrible stinker that you and I had talked about a couple days ago, their pitching staff, whether it's Eovaldi or Montgomery, they've been great. The bullpen, which everybody had questions about, whether it was Will Smith or Jose DeClerc or even Aroldis Chapman, have been really solid in these playoffs. And, the Houston Astros, you can't be too disappointed they lost because they were on a run where they ran roughshod for the American League in the postseason every year. They had to lose at some point. And I really think, especially with Dusty Baker announcing his retirement today from managing, maybe Dusty, I don't know I don't want to call it uninspired managing, but every great dynasty has to have an end. And this year it was the end for the Astros. I think they'll be a playoff team for years to come, but they're not going to be the powerhouse they once were when Correa and George Springer were there, and George and all those other guys. So they won last year, nothing to be ashamed about. Altuve and Bregman and Brantley and Alvarez and Jeremy Pena will all see the playoffs.
15 seconds, Al.
But all dynasties got to come to an end. I tip my hat to the Rangers. And I apologize for laughing at Jacob deGrom saying he came to win a championship in Texas.
Well, he's 4 wins away from doing just that in year one. But no, you bring us some good points. Nathan Eovaldi will always hold a special place in my heart for helping us win a championship in 2018. But you bring up some good points. And by the way, Dusty Baker keeping Martin Maldonado in the game, just given I know they were losing big, but that was weird. Given we know Maldonado's struggles at the plate. Finally, with you, Devin, as a heartbroken Baltimore Orioles fan, were you more impressed? Sorry, I had to get that shot in there as a Red Sox fan. Were you more impressed with the Texas Rangers or unimpressed and disappointed with the defending champion Astros?
I'm gonna have to side with everybody else, man. I'm more impressed with the Rangers, even though the Rangers did knock my O's off, But one of the main reasons why the Rangers did knock the O's off is because the bats got hot for the Rangers when they need to get hot. So everybody had doubted because the O's had came in with a real strong finish at the end of the season. Everybody had really counted the Rangers out. But the Rangers really came in and was like, no, y'all are a young team. We are a well team that's put together, and we are about to go ahead and show you what this hot bats can do. And each time that the Orioles tried to go up, get hot with the Rangers just kept getting hotter and hotter. And that's what happened last night against the Astros. The bats got hot. The Texas came out with 3 runs in the opening inning. And then they took a break off in the second inning, and then he scored again in the third and the fourth. And then they really got hot in the fourth inning. And then they went and got double it up in the sixth inning. So it was just like the bats just kept getting hot no matter when. If the Astros even tried to even get hot, and the Astros didn't get hot like how the Rangers got hot. The Rangers also had guys that's averaging .30, 333, 308, 327, 192, 294. If all these guys are averaging that in that game, man, that's going to be hard to beat. So I'm way more impressed that Rangers really got hot again and showing that these bats can turn on when the Rangers really wants to turn the bats on. So I tip my hat off to the Rangers also.
I'm not gonna lie, I have to agree with all of you on this. Given again, I guess the thing I'm most impressed with is not necessarily just Texas's roster makeup, but the fact that they, again, as I mentioned earlier, overcame the gut punch of Game 5 to go on and win the series. And it goes to show you, Devin, you sort of alluded to it. That's the best team doesn't always get to. Again, the Orioles with a 1 seed, and Tampa had a big year. Tampa Bay lost to the Texas Rangers, and then obviously they went on to beat the Orioles and then the Astros, but. It goes to show you the hottest team often wins more so than the best team sometimes. Right now, the hottest team is the Texas Rangers. Shaheem Taylor is in the comments and says the Rangers win was impressive. That it was. So let's go to our point totals. I'm going to have to give an A+ grade. Again, Mike Guido is, I don't know what you're on right now, Guido, but aside from the final round, the last time you were on here, you are just, you're feeling it, buddy. I'm not going to lie. That was a great take. Yeah. Again, great take. Get me thinking. I may not always agree, but if you get me thinking, I'm always going to give you a great take. Alfred Parsard Jr., I'm going to have to give you a great take as well. Bringing up, obviously, again, the roster makeup of this Texas team. Both of you, by the way, you and Mike as well, doing something that to me I find very admirable, is that admitting you were wrong. You didn't hide behind it. You didn't say, you come up front and you say, you know what, I got this one wrong. Mike, in terms of, the Rangers spending a lot of money, and Alfred, when it comes to how much you hated Jacob deGrom leaving the Mets, and now he's obviously hurt right now, but he's going back to the World Series. Devin, give you a great take as well, man. I think you sort of brought up a point that is very true, that the hottest team often does win the World Series, or at least get to the World Series. And right, as we sit here today, the Texas Rangers were exactly that, and Houston kind of went cold. So great takes across the board. I got to give A+ grades to everybody here. So that'll set up a very interesting final round, or third round rather, featuring Devin's favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens. But before we do, let's look at our third round rules. A great take gives you 800 points. A good take gives you 100 points. Okay take gives you 200, and a bad take still at 0. So one of the games, if not the game of Week 7, was between the Detroit Lions, the red-hot Detroit Lions, and the Baltimore Ravens, in which Lamar Jackson was absolutely spectacular against, by the way, a top 10 defense statistically in the Detroit Lions. Lamar Jackson threw for 357, 3 touchdowns, ran for another, had a QBR of 95, and a passer rating in the 150. So played about as well as one possibly could. So I'm going to ask you, Alfred, first, given his body of work, given that he has an MVP, and given the fact that he's arguably the MVP frontrunner again this year, do you think Lamar Jackson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL?
When I look at the landscape of starting quarterbacks this season in the NFL, yeah, you put Lamar Jackson in the top 5. Other than maybe Tua Tagovailoa, who can you say is having a better year statistics wise? I think Mahomes is always going to be Mahomes. Mahomes is going to have a great season, but Mahomes, something is off about Patrick Mahomes this season. He doesn't look like the Patrick Mahomes that we've come to know and expect, even though he's still having a good year. Other than that, you look around the league, who else can you put above Lamar Jackson? Josh Allen has looked very regular this season, struggling against a poor Giants team. And then I don't even know where else to look. All these guys who we thought were top 10 quarterbacks seasons ago. Derek Carr is struggling. Jimmy G is somewhere holding his back in a hospital bed. Lamar Jackson, and granted, he did this against a Detroit Lions team that everybody has high expectations of this season. Quote me if I'm wrong, but they are the NFC North leaders as we're speaking right now. So for him to mastermind and orchestrate a blowout of that proportion and have those statistics is amazing. But again, you look around the rest of the NFL, I don't think there are too many starting quarterbacks that you can put this season over. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is having an okay season statistically, but you got to give it to Lamar. If it's not Tua or it's not Mahomes, I would go with Lamar Jackson if I had to make a case. Joe Burrow is hurt and struggling this season too. There's not too many quarterbacks that are
10 seconds
that are putting up the numbers that Lamar is. So he could go in my top 5 this season.
Yeah, no, he's playing well, and again, he's, like I said, he's up there in the Vegas odds in terms of MVP favorites, along there with Patrick Mahomes. So he is having a spectacular season. I'll move to the resident Ravens fan in here, Devin Nettles. And for the record, Devin, I just want to tell you, I don't know if you know this, you are obviously relatively new to the Gryd Network, coming earlier this year, and you've been a fantastic addition for the record. But I don't know if you know this, but I've always been a Lamar Jackson fan, even though, I mean, obviously I'm a Steelers fan, but I've always loved Lamar. Just I want I want you to know that, okay? So, but do you think
Okay.
Lamar Jackson, given his performance this season and his total body of work, do you think he's a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League?
Yes, hands down, yes. He is a top 5 quarterback. The reason why Lamar, even with the 2 losses to one of your beloved Steelers and to the Colts, Lamar was still averaging his completion rate was still up in the 70s. Even with those 2 losses, he was still up in the 70s. You know one thing about when it came to NFC, Lamar is now 16-1. 16-1 against any NFC team that he go against. And then second and thirdly, everybody was so hyped about Jared Goff. Jared Goff is the MVP candidate. Jared Goff and the Lions have finally turned the curve. All this noise. And Roquan Smith said it in the interview. I'm from the business where you have to show me. And the Lions, only thing the Lions was showed up they did was come down here to eat crabs with us. Because you can clearly see that these guys was not ready to be on that field. They did not show up until about fourth quarter. So for Lamar, he's the second quarterback that's averaging a perfect rating. The other quarterback is the GOAT, Tom Brady. So, you know, if he's in his own class with Tom Brady, not Patrick Mahomes, not Josh Allen, not Aaron Rodgers, not none of these other guys who normally be dominating the season. It's Lamar who had the unanimous MVP and the guy who's keep fighting and keep showing that when Todd Monken finally gave him an offense that he can open up and actually read and not hurry up and try to just hand it off and make a decision to RPO. Now he's checking off all the boxes that everybody thought Lamar couldn't do. Oh, Lamar can't read defense. Oh, Lamar can't give it to you past the receivers that's 25 yards down the field. Lamar's doing everything that everybody thinks that he couldn't do. So, yes, he is a top 5 quarterback in this league right now.
He's playing unbelievable, and you make the great point about Tom Monken, and we forget that, and I'm 100% with you in this regard, in that we forget that, or not we forget, there's this narrative that, Lamar Jackson is a good passer for the pocket. Well, he may not be Patrick Mahomes from there or Joe Burrow from there, but he's absolutely in the upper echelon of quarterbacks. The film would show you that, and now that you got him Tom Monken, now that you got him Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, obviously already had Mark Andrews, and he's making a start, and Nelson Aguilar right now, who the Patriots couldn't do anything with. I mean, that's the type of player that he is. I'll finish with you, Mike. Do you think Lamar Jackson, given the performance the other day and the season and in total, do you think he's a top 5 quarterback today in the National Football League?
So I want to take you back in time a little bit. It's about 4 years ago when I was working for the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, and it was my show, The Hate Stack, that aired on from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time every single day, Monday to Friday. And I was a big fan of Lamar Jackson then, and I called him the infamous term, and I hope Devin appreciates this as a Ravens fan. I called Lamar Jackson a Ferrari with snow tires because he's fast and electric and super exciting, but he's reliable and he's safe for your children, right? Like, that's the kind of quarterback that I think Lamar Jackson has always been. So this isn't really a question for me about whether or not Lamar Jackson has become a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. This is where he's been. I think I've always been on the Lamar Jackson hype train because I just don't think that there are very many players in the NFL that are more electric than he is with the ball in his hands. And with that comes some mistakes. Devin knows this, of course, right? Lamar Jackson is not always the most accurate thrower of the football. He doesn't always make the best decisions, but he's a lot like Josh Allen in the sense of when he's right, he looks like a superhero. So this is kind of where I'm getting at here. So I think right now with Lamar Jackson, what you've been able to, realize to this point is that he's completing 71% of his throws. That was a big thing that people were scared of, right? Mm-hmm. He's not efficient throwing the football. Well, this year he's efficient throwing the football, and he hasn't been perfect every game. But listen, this is what Lamar Jackson has done. He's been a phenomenal quarterback so far for the Ravens, especially this year. I think right now the favorite in that division. I know you're not going to like that, Bryson, but truth be told, you also have to look at, this is the other contributing factor to this question, is that outside of the top 3 in my mind, right, outside of Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow, I don't know who's that next guy, right? I don't know if it's Jalen Hurts. I don't know if it's Justin Herbert. I don't know, I don't know who that is. So is it reasonable to say that Lamar Jackson can rank 4th or 5th in the NFL in quarterback power rankings? He absolutely can. So after what he did to the Lions, who are a very good, formidable football team, I think you can give him the respect of saying, yes, him doing it with his legs and finally becoming efficient with the football with his arm, he's pretty much in that conversation solidly to this point right now.
Yeah, no, he's playing unbelievable football, and I absolutely love the analogy about the what did you call him again? I got to hear that one more time.
A Ferrari with snow tires.
That's so good. That is so good. You may have to trademark that, Guido, but at the same time, Devin, you may have to use that on at the bank from time to time. I'm gonna have to. That's a good one for sure. Real quick, let's look at the comments here. Shaheem said off. He had just 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't know what Shaheem is necessarily referring to. Did anybody say Lamar's off? Because I didn't catch that, because I'm trying to grade and give scores, but I don't know. Our guy Parnell here at the Grid, he says, was Lions Ravens game more good Ravens in terms of being Super Bowl contenders, or Detroit as pretenders? Parnell, I think that's more about Baltimore and what they can bring, because I've been on the Detroit Lions train since before the season started. I think they just had a bad day at the office, and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens took advantage of that. So let's look at the point totals as we go and try and get to narrow it down to our top 2 to get to the final round. Alfred, okay take. The only reason I give you the okay take is I'm not gonna lie, I do not think Lamar Jackson has been better than Patrick Mahomes this year. So a lot of the numbers would bear that out. Obviously, Mahomes was great on Sunday, but we hold Mahomes to like an impossible standard, like he's supposed to be Superman every time he touches the field. It's more respect to Patrick Mahomes. I thought you kind of threw some shade at the best quarterback in football, just right there. So just if we're being fair, Devin. Back to back great takes for you. Listen, your assessment of Todd Monken and the impact he's had on Lamar Jackson is well noted and well taken. And he's obviously allowed Lamar to play more to his strengths than Greg Roman did there at the end. So great take by you, Mike, because you went frozen Guido for a second there, because you gave the snow tire analogy and because you've been on Lamar Jackson for a while. I almost docked you points for saying that Josh Allen was a top 3 quarterback, but I'll forgive you for that.
My God, Bryson, Jesus!
I'm just saying he's not top 3. We can debate this another day, Guido. Okay, we can do this another day. But we do agree Lamar is amazing. Okay. Let's so that means our top 2 then is Mike Guido and Devin Nettles. So Alfred, sorry to say, my man, but you were not able to make it to the final round. So you won't be able to pass Barry quite yet. But listen, you're gaining on him. So great game for you, Alfred. Hats off to you, my man. There you go. Okay. Let's look at our final round rules. So first of all, before we get into our topic, let's look at the final round rules. So this is winner take all. So the winner gets 10,000 points. The loser comes home empty-handed. So let's move to our final topic. Again, this is a do or die type situation. So the NBA season has officially already tipped off. So we got the Nuggets and Lakers playing right now as we speak. But the Vegas favorites right now both come out of the Eastern Conference. The Milwaukee Bucks, who added Damian Lillard in a trade in the last few weeks, and the Boston Celtics, who added Drew Holiday recently and added Kristaps Porzingis this offseason. Milwaukee obviously won the championship in 21. Boston got to the finals in 22. Both very obviously we understand the rosters and what they can bring to the table. So I'll start now with Devin. Who do you think between those two, who do you think is better on paper today? Is it the Milwaukee Bucks or is it the Boston Celtics?
I hate to say it because, I'm a Laker fan, but I'm going to have to go with the Boston Celtics. Adding Drew Holiday was a big and crucial move for the Boston Celtics. Them moving on from Marcus Smart, which I felt like Marcus Smart is a dog, yes. But at the times that when you need clutch offense, Marcus Smart had a lot of turnovers when he bring the ball up the court, and then it felt like Boston would go flatline. Now you bringing in Drew Holiday. Even though, yes, you lose Robert Williams, but you bringing in Drew Holiday to a guy that can actually take control of a game, who actually can know the championship pedigree, who can actually walk a guard down into the block and give you tough, easy buckets also. I feel like that's going to help Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that they don't have to be the guys all the time down the stretch. They have a guy who knows how to get the offense moving and what offense set that's going to actually help Boston to get past Milwaukee. I like the Dame Lillard for Milwaukee, but the only thing I have a question about for Dame Lillard is health issues. You see that he only played 56 games last year in Portland. Now, is 56 games is not going to cut it in Milwaukee in my eyes. And Giannis is kind of, with his game style, he was starting to get hurt a little bit down towards the end of last year. So if you have two of your stars really going to have health issues going into the season, which Boston really not going to have that many health concerns, I feel like Boston to me is my favorite making it out the East.
Yeah, you make a compelling case, and the Drew Holiday edition was absolutely massive. And what it also gives them is a true point guard, which they haven't had, and sometimes certainly haven't had with this core group. Pure starting point guard, at least with Tatum and Brown, obviously as the 1 and 2. So yeah, adding Drew Holiday was huge for the defensive end. Certainly, we know what he brings there, but the offensive end as well. To Guido now, do you think the Celtics are better on paper than the Bucks, or vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm trying so hard to like the Bucks more, but I can't. The Boston Celtics right now, I think, are just the better basketball team on paper. The only thing that gives me pause is Jason Tatum when it comes playoff time a little bit. But here's the thing. Boston, I think, is less reliant. I shouldn't say reliant, but I think they have less question marks when it comes to where stuff is going to come from, right? Their addition of Drew Holiday gives them such a good defensive backcourt. It's actually kind of crazy. Jaylen Brown's also a lockdown defender. You got to take care of him. I know people are not really thrilled. Bryson, I knew you weren't thrilled that they gave up Robert Williams. I'm not really concerned about it just because I still think what you're getting from that position with Porzingis at 7'3" and with Al Horford, I think is more than good enough around the rim to protect it. I also think that a guy that you need to look out for, right, since they lost Grant Williams, is Jordan Walsh out of Arkansas, who they drafted in this draft, who is going to be kind of that tweener forward that gives them those energy minutes. He kind of does a lot of different things. I think there's going to be a lot that's going to be coming from him early for the Boston Celtics. And to be honest with Milwaukee, that's kind of where the root of this is. I love Damian Lillard to Milwaukee. I think it gives them another element to their offensive game, but they're definitely losing a step defensively. I think it puts a lot more pressure on their young guys to play solid defense, like Marjon Beauchamp, guys like Andre Jackson. Those are guys that are going to need to step up in a defensive role because they just simply don't have those guys in the backcourt anymore. It's going to fall a lot on the second level with Giannis and Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and those guys. So right now, I just think Boston is more complete. You don't have to ask questions of where certain things, defense, ball handling, playmaking, offense, shooting. You don't have to make those questions about where that stuff is coming from Boston right now.
Good takes. Actually, great takes by both of you. Give yourselves a round of applause. But this was tough. Again, we always anytime we get these two great contestants, especially considering y'all are top four, it's hard, man. But I'll dial up the victory music because the winner this week in the 8 o'clock spot is Devin Nettles. Devin, you are the winner of the 8 o'clock spot this week. Congratulations. You have dethroned Mike Guido. Man, crazy performance by you. Big time performance by you. Hats off. And I don't know if the music is even playing right now, but how are you doing? How are you feeling about it?
Man, I ain't even gonna lie, boy. I thought Mike had me when he started naming those bench players. I said, he got me.
That's why you beat him. That's why you beat him, Devin. You were out here naming rookies ain't gonna make no difference for the Celtics. Mike, come on. I know you're draft night, and I respect that. What's that?
You don't think Jordan Walsh is gonna play?
He's not gonna be an impact. He's probably the 7th or 8th or 10th most important player for the Celtics.
I think he's going to get some time the first 20 games. Those first games is to fill out to see how your rotations can possibly be. But after that, I don't see him playing that much, Mike. I'm sorry, Frozone.
Not in the playoffs.
I don't know. You got to keep in mind, though, right? Because a lot of where the Celtics depth comes from is in their backcourt, right? With Pritchard and Derek White and those guys. Like, those guys are going to get minutes up there. But when it comes to front court stuff, I mean, who's going to take minutes away from Jordan Walsh? Svi Mikhailuk? Who's taking minutes away? Is it going to be Sam Hauser? Is it going to be Lamar Stevens or Delano Banton? Or who's it going to be? It's going to be Jordan Walsh. I'm telling you right now, he does everything that they love.
Okay, we'll see. I don't know.
Man,
I don't think he's
this, and with Josh Allen not being a top 3 quarterback, but golly, Bryson,
I didn't know that triggered you like
on
that,
the
but
list
okay.
today. You're on the list. You're on the
whatever.
list.
That you're just mad because you didn't win. You're just bringing up.
True, I am mad that I didn't win.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Devin, congratulations. Alfred, Mike, great performances by you guys as well. That is it for the 8 o'clock spots. We'll be back pretty soon on Tuesday every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, live on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter accounts. Great job, everybody here. Listen, this is the prime of the sports calendar, middle of the baseball playoffs, middle of the NFL season, NBA season starting. For you hockey fans out there, got hockey, college football. There's nothing better than this. We'll have tons to talk about next time here, but hope everybody has a great week. We'll see y'all next show. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out.